Those words came from my son's fiancée the night before their wedding. I stayed home the next day heartbroken and humiliated. But by noon, the wedding had completely fallen apart. And the reason why, well, that's a story you need to hear. My name is Taylor Morrison, and I'm 52 years old. I've been a nurse for nearly 3 decades, most of that time working double shifts at Manhattan General just to make ends meet. I raised my son Cameron alone after his father walked out when he was 7 years old. 21 years of sacrifice of choosing between groceries and utility bills, of wearing the same winter coat for a decade so Cameron could have new sneakers. But I'd do it all again in a heartbeat, because my boy grew into the kind of man who makes a mother's sacrifices worthwhile. Or at least that's what I thought until I met Amelia Sullivan. The call came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was folding laundry in my small 1-bedroom apartment in Upper West Side, the kind of place real estate agents call cozy when they mean cramped. My phone buzzed and Cameron's name lit up the screen. "Mom!" His voice carried that particular excitement I recognized from when he was 8 years old and won his first spelling bee. "You busy?" I smiled, setting down one of my old scrubs. "Never too busy for you, sweetheart. What's going on?" "I want you to meet someone. Someone really special." My heart did a little flip. 28 years old, and this was the first time Cameron had ever asked me to meet a girlfriend. Sure, there'd been dates over the years, but nothing serious enough to warrant an introduction. "Of course," I said, trying to keep the emotion out of my voice. "When were you thinking of Saturday? There's this great restaurant in Midtown, Bella Luna. I already made a reservation for 7. Bella Luna. I'd walked past it 100 times on my way to the hospital. The kind of place with cloth napkins and waiters in bow ties. The kind of place where a single entree cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Sounds perfect. I lied already, calculating whether I could afford a new dress. My best outfit was a navy blue number I'd bought for Cameron's law school graduation 3 years ago. Would it still be appropriate? "Thanks, Mom. I think you're really going to like her. Her name's Amelia." After we hung up, I stood in my tiny living room surrounded by piles of laundry that would never fit in my closet-sized bedroom. I looked at the photo on my wall, Cameron in his cap and gown, his arm around my shoulders, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. In a way, we had. He'd graduated summa cum laude from Columbia Law, landed a position at Morrison & Klein, no relation, and was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of earning. All those nights I'd stayed up helping him study, all those mornings I'd sent him to school with whatever breakfast I could scrape together, it had all been worth it. Now he wanted me to meet the woman who might become my daughter-in-law. I should have been thrilled. I was thrilled. So why did I feel this small knot of anxiety in my stomach? Saturday arrived wrapped in that particular kind of spring sunshine that makes Manhattan almost magical. I'd settled on the navy dress with a cream cardigan I'd found at a thrift store in Brooklyn. Simple, presentable, maternal. Bella Luna was even more intimidating in person. Floor-to-ceiling windows, candlelit tables, and a maitre d' who looked like he'd been trained to identify knockoff handbags from across the room. "Reservation for Morrison," I told him, clutching my $20 Target purse a little tighter. "Ah, yes, Mr. Morrison's party. Right this way." Cameron stood as I approached the table and my breath caught. When had my little boy started looking so grown up? His suit probably cost more than my monthly rent. His hair was styled with that effortless precision that actually takes a lot of effort. And beside him sat the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. "Mom," Cameron kissed my cheek, pulling out my chair. "This is Amelia. Amelia, my mom, Taylor." "Mrs. Morrison." Amelia extended a perfectly manicured hand. "It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Cameron talks about you constantly." She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 27, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. Her blonde hair fell in those effortless waves you only get from expensive salons. Diamond studs caught the light from her ears, and her dress, a cream silk number that probably had a designer label I'd never heard of, fit like it had been made for her body, which it probably had been. "The pleasure's all mine," I said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, professional, the handshake of someone who'd been to business school. We settled into our seats, and Cameron immediately launched into the story of how they'd met. Art gallery opening in Chelsea, mutual friend coffee the next day that turned into dinner that turned into 6 months of what he called the happiest time of my life. I watched them as he talked. The way Amelia touched his arm at just the right moments. The way she laughed, not too loud, not too soft, perfectly calibrated. The way her eyes sparkled when she looked at him. Everything about her seemed perfect. Maybe that's what bothered me. "So, Mrs. Morrison," Amelia said when Cameron paused to look at the menu. "Cameron tells me you're a nurse." "Was pas," I corrected. "I retired last year. Well, semi-retired. I still pick up shifts at the hospital a few times a month. Can't quite let go, I guess." "That's admirable. Healthcare is such important work." She said it the way people talk about charity work in distant countries. Important, certainly, but not something that affects them personally. "What do you do, Amelia?" "I'm the marketing director for Lux & Co. We're a luxury fashion brand boutique, really. We just opened our flagship store in Soho." Of course she worked in fashion. Of course. "That sounds exciting," I offered. "It is, though the hours can be brutal. Sometimes I'm at the office until midnight working on campaigns." She reached for Cameron's hand. "Thank goodness I have this one to keep me grounded." Cameron beamed. I smiled. The waiter appeared to take our order. I ordered the cheapest pasta on the menu. Amelia ordered something I couldn't pronounce. Cameron ordered for all of us to share appetizers that cost $45. The conversation flowed easily enough. Amelia asked polite questions about my career, about raising Cameron alone, about the neighborhood where we'd lived when he was growing up. All the right questions delivered with all the right facial expressions. But twice, when Cameron excused himself, once to take a call from his firm, once to use the restroom, the mask slipped. The first time, Amelia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, and started typing rapidly, completely ignoring me mid-sentence. When I stopped talking, she didn't even notice for a full 30 seconds. The second time was worse. Cameron had been gone maybe 2 minutes when Amelia's eyes drifted to her phone again. I tried to make conversation. "Cameron mentioned your father is in business." She looked up as if surprised I was still there. "Investments, yes. He's done very well for himself." Something in her tone felt rehearsed. But before I could probe further, Cameron returned and the warm, engaged Amelia reappeared like someone had flipped a switch. On the subway ride home, I declined Cameron's offer of a cab, citing the beautiful weather. I tried to shake off my unease. Maybe Amelia was just nervous about meeting me. Maybe I was being the overprotective mother looking for problems where none existed. My phone buzzed. A text from Cameron. "Thanks for coming tonight, Mom. Isn't she amazing?" I looked at those words for a long time before responding. "She seems wonderful, sweetheart. I'm happy for you." It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. I was happy Cameron had found someone. I just couldn't shake the feeling that Amelia Sullivan was playing a part. And I had no idea what the script said about mothers-in-law. Spring slid into summer, and I saw less and less of my son. It started small. Our usual Sunday dinners, a tradition we'd maintained even after he'd moved into his own place in Tribeca, became every other Sunday. Then once a month. Then, "I'll let you know Mom work's been crazy." I told myself it was normal. He had a demanding job. He had a girlfriend. He had a life that didn't revolve around his aging mother eating takeout in her tiny apartment. But the texts changed too. Where Cameron used to send me random photos, a dog he'd seen in the park, a funny billboard, his lunch, now his messages were shorter, more perfunctory. "Busy week. Talk soon." When we did talk, Amelia was always there. Not physically present, but present in every conversation. Amelia thinks I should take that corporate law position instead of the pro bono work. Amelia knows this great place in the Hamptons where we might spend 4th of July. Amelia's parents have a connection at Goldman Sachs if I want to pivot into financial law. Amelia. In August, I decided to surprise Cameron for his 28th birthday. I'd baked his favorite cake, triple chocolate, with peanut butter, frosting the recipe I'd perfected when he was 10 years old. I'd stayed up until 2 in the morning, making sure the layers were even, the frosting smooth, the decoration just right. I showed up at his apartment at 6:30, knowing he'd be home from work. The doorman recognized me and waved me up. Cameron answered the door in gym clothes, sweaty from what I assumed was a workout. His smile was genuine when he saw me. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "Happy birthday, baby." I held up the cake carrier. "I know you're probably going out with Amelia tonight, but I wanted Taylor." Amelia's voice came from inside the apartment. She appeared behind Cameron, also in workout clothes, her hair pulled back in a high ponytail. Even sweaty, she looked like a fitness model. "What a surprise. I brought Cameron's birthday cake," I explained, suddenly feeling foolish. "Should I have called first?" "Oh." Amelia's eyes flickered to the cake carrier, then to Cameron. "Honey, didn't you tell your mom about your new diet?" Cameron's face flushed slightly. Amelia's trainer has me on this macro-friendly plan. I've lost 8 pounds. Which is amazing, Amelia said, sliding her arm around his waist. She looked at me with what I suppose was meant to be sympathy. But a cake like that would undo weeks of work. You understand, right, Taylor? She'd called me Taylor, not Mrs. Morrison, just Taylor. Of course, I heard myself say. I should have asked first. Well, since you're here, Cameron said, glancing at Amelia uncertainly. Maybe you could stay for a bit. We were just about to make dinner. Grilled chicken and quinoa. Actually, Amelia interjected smoothly, we have that Zoom call with my parents at 7:30, remember? Right, yeah? Cameron looked apologetic. Sorry, Mom. Maybe next week. I left with my cake, rode the elevator down past the doorman's sympathetic smile, and walked 6 blocks before I realized I was crying. I threw the cake away in a public trash can on 7th Avenue. Triple chocolate with peanut butter frosting. 28 years of tradition gone. The months continued to pass in a blur of cancellations and postponements. September brought Cameron's promotion to junior partner. I found out from his Facebook post, not from him directly. The photo showed him celebrating with colleagues at some rooftop bar. Amelia was at his side, radiant in a red dress. I commented, "So proud of you, sweetheart." He liked the comment. Didn't call. October was worse. I'd been having trouble with my blood pressure medication. The generic wasn't working as well, but the name brand was $200 a month more than I could afford. I'd mentioned it to Cameron in passing during one of our brief phone calls. That's rough, Mom. Have you talked to your doctor about alternatives? I did. There aren't really any that are cheaper and effective. A pause. I could hear Amelia's voice in the background, something about a reservation. Listen, I've got to run, but we should definitely figure something out. Maybe I can help you budget better. Budget better? As if I hadn't been budgeting my entire adult life. As if I hadn't raised him on a nurse's salary in one of the most expensive cities in America. I'll be fine, I said. Don't worry about it. But I did worry. I worried about the pills I was skipping to make the bottle last longer. I worried about the headaches that were becoming more frequent. I worried that my son had become someone I didn't quite recognize. Most of all, I worried about Amelia. Because the more I watched them together, the few times I was actually invited to see them, the more I noticed a pattern. Amelia always steered conversations toward money. Not crassly, but consistently. She'd mention the bonus Cameron might get. She'd bring up the partner track and what the salary increase would look like. She'd casually drop names of wealthy clients his firm was courting. She asked about his student loans, all $70,000 of them, which I'd helped him manage by paying his rent the first year out of law school. Oh, Taylor handles that, Amelia had said when this came up at dinner one night. That's so generous of you. The way she said generous made it sound like foolish. She also mentioned her family with a frequency that felt deliberate. Her father in investments. Her mother's charity work. Their vacation home in Connecticut. The art collection they were building. I'd tried to look up Marcus Sullivan online. There were mentions of him in business journals from 5 or 6 years ago, always in connection with successful hedge fund ventures. But the more recent articles were harder to find, buried under layers of other financial news. One night in early November, I sat at my laptop in my apartment, the blue light casting shadows across my face. I typed Marcus Sullivan financial scandal into Google. Nothing concrete, but a few forum posts on investment sites, people asking if anyone knew what had happened to his fund. One comment, heard he went belly up in 2020, total wipeout. I stared at that comment for a long time. Then I closed my laptop, told myself I was being paranoid, and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't forget the way Amelia had looked at Cameron during that last dinner. Not with love exactly, more like assessment, like he was a stock she was considering investing in. The call came on a Friday night in late November. I was heating up a can of soup, the cheap kind, because my blood pressure medication had wiped out my grocery budget for the week when my phone rang. "Mom, you sitting down?" My heart jumped. The last time Cameron had asked me that, it was to tell me he'd been in a minor car accident. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. The opposite, actually. I proposed to Amelia. She said yes. The room tilted slightly. I grabbed the counter. "Mom, you there?" "Yes. Yes, I'm here. Oh, Cameron, that's wonderful." I forced enthusiasm into my voice, pushed down the knot in my stomach. "Congratulations, sweetheart. When did this happen?" "Last night. I took her to this place in Brooklyn Bridge Park right at sunset. The whole thing. He sounded so happy, so young. For a moment, he was my little boy again, showing me his first A+ on a test. "I'm so happy for you," I said, and part of me meant it. My son was getting married. This was supposed to be joyful. "Listen, we're having a small celebration dinner tomorrow night. Both families. I know it's short notice, but can you make it 8 o'clock at the River House?" The River House. I'd heard of it. The kind of restaurant that required reservations months in advance and had a dress code listed on their website. "Of course I'll be there." "Great. Oh, and Mom, Amelia's parents are really excited to meet you." That knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I spent Saturday morning at a consignment shop in Queens searching for something appropriate. I finally found a charcoal gray dress that almost fit, marked down to $35, because it had a small stain on the hem that I was able to cover with strategic hemming. The River House occupied a historic building overlooking the East River. Inside, everything gleamed, from the crystal chandeliers to the polished marble floors to the silverware that probably cost more than my entire dining set. I gave my name to the hostess. "Morrison party." "Ah, yes, they're in the private dining room. Right this way." Private dining room. Of course. The hostess led me through the main restaurant where beautiful people ate beautiful food in beautiful clothes. I felt every one of my 52 years, every thread of my bargain dress, every scuff on my shoes. The private room was smaller than I'd expected, but no less elegant. A single table set for 8, already occupied by 5 people. Cameron stood immediately when he saw me. "Mom," he pulled me into a hug, and for a moment everything felt normal. He smelled like the same cologne I'd bought him for Christmas 3 years ago. "You look great." "So do you, sweetheart." Amelia rose more slowly, a champagne flute in her hand. Her engagement ring caught the light, a massive diamond that must have cost... I didn't want to think about it. "Taylor, I'm so glad you could make it." She kissed the air beside my cheek, European style. "Come meet my parents." The couple at the head of the table stood. Marcus Sullivan was tall, silver-haired, with the kind of tan that comes from country club golf courses. His suit was bespoke, his watch a Rolex. Victoria Sullivan was blonde like her daughter, but harder somehow, her beauty preserved through what I suspected was regular intervention from expensive dermatologists. Her jewelry could have funded a small country. "Taylor Morrison." Marcus extended his hand, his grip firm to the point of aggressive. "Marcus Sullivan. This is my wife, Victoria." "Charmed," Victoria said, her accent suggesting years of elocution lessons. She looked me up and down in a single sweep, and I watched myself get categorized, filed, and dismissed in under 3 seconds. "Please sit." Marcus gestured to the chair at the opposite end of the table from him. The symbolism wasn't subtle. The remaining 2 people introduced themselves as Amelia's brother Harrison and his fiancée Natasha. Both in their early 30s, both dressed like they'd stepped out of a luxury fashion magazine. Champagne was poured. Toasts were made. I sipped my water, aware that champagne at dinner probably cost more than I could afford. "So, Taylor," Marcus said once the waiters had taken our orders, "Cameron tells us you're in healthcare." "I was a nurse, yes. Retired now." "Nursing." Victoria said it like I'd said waste management. "How practical." "Mom worked at Manhattan General for almost 30 years. Cameron interjected, pride in his voice. "She paid for my entire education." "How wonderful," Victoria said in a tone that suggested it was anything but. Though I'm sure Cameron's law school debt must be quite burdensome for someone on a nurse's pension. The table went quiet. Cameron's jaw tightened. Amelia touched his hand, soothing. "Actually," I said evenly, "I manage just fine. We don't all need trust funds to survive." It came out harsher than I'd intended. Victoria's smile turned glacial. "Of course," Marcus smoothly intervened. "In any case, Cameron's future is very bright. We've been discussing opportunities for him. Connections in the financial sector, potential clients for his firm." "My firm already has plenty of clients," Cameron said, a slight edge to his voice. Of course. But the right clients can make all the difference. Speaking of which," Marcus leaned back in his chair, entirely in his element. "We should discuss the wedding budget. Victoria and I would like to contribute naturally." "That's very generous," Cameron started, but Marcus waved him off. "Nonsense. Our daughter deserves the best. We're thinking the plaza, maybe 400 guests. Victoria has already been in touch with the event coordinator. 400 guests. The Plaza Hotel. Actually," I heard myself say I'd like to contribute too. Every eye turned to me. Amelia's smile was patronizing. Victoria looked amused. "That's sweet, Taylor," Victoria said, "but I don't think you understand the scale we're talking about. A wedding at the plaza runs upwards of $300,000. The number hung in the air like a guillotine. "I may not have your resources," I said carefully, "but I can contribute something. Cameron is my only child." "How touching," Victoria murmured. Cameron looked miserable. "Mom, you don't have to." "I want to." I looked at my son, willing him to see me. "I want to be part of this." Amelia squeezed Cameron's hand. "Of course you're part of this, Taylor. You're Cameron's mother. That will never change." The way she said it made me feel like a participation trophy. Dinner continued in awkward spurts of conversation. Marcus dominated, talking about investment strategies and real estate opportunities. Victoria discussed the wedding as if it were a military operation. Harrison and Natasha nodded at appropriate intervals. Cameron barely spoke. And I realized watching him that he looked tired, genuinely exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with his job. When the check came, Marcus grabbed it before anyone else could move. "My treat, of course. Can't have the future in-laws paying for their own engagement dinner." We filed out of the restaurant. On the sidewalk, as Amelia and her family waited for their car, Cameron walked me toward the street to hail a cab. "Mom, I'm sorry about—" "Don't." I touched his arm. "It's fine." "It's not fine. The way Victoria talked to you." "Cameron." I looked up at my son, this man I'd raised, and I saw confusion in his eyes. "Are you happy?" He hesitated. Just for a second, but I saw it. "Of course I'm happy. I love Amelia." "That's not what I asked." Before he could answer, Amelia called out, "Cameron, our car's here." He looked torn, then he kissed my forehead. "We'll talk soon, Mom. I promise." I watched him jog back to Amelia, watched her link her arm through his, watched them climb into a town car with her parents. I stood on that Manhattan sidewalk in my $35 dress and realized something that made my blood run cold. I wasn't losing my son to marriage. I was losing him to the Sullivans. And I had no idea how to get him back. The weeks after the engagement dinner crawled by in a haze of exclusion. Wedding planning had begun in earnest, and I wasn't part of it. Not really. Oh, I'd get occasional updates, secondhand information through Cameron's brief texts or offhand comments during our increasingly rare phone calls. But the actual planning, that was handled by Amelia Victoria and apparently a team of wedding planners whose fees probably exceeded my annual income. "They've hired Preston and Associates," Dr. Linda Foster told me over coffee one December morning. Linda had been my closest friend since nursing school, and she knew everyone worth knowing in Manhattan social circles. "That's the firm that planned that Vanderbilt wedding last year." "I don't know what that means," I admitted. Linda's expression was gentle. "It means they charge $50,000 just to get started." I set down my coffee cup, suddenly nauseous. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone eating Chinese takeout and watching reruns of old movies. Cameron had gone to Connecticut with the Sullivans. He'd called on Christmas morning, speaking in that bright, false voice people use when they're being watched. "Miss you, Mom. We'll do something when I get back, I promise." We never did. January brought a cold snap that made my apartment feel like a walk-in freezer. I couldn't afford to run the heat above 65 degrees, so I spent most evenings wrapped in blankets trying to ignore the chattering of my teeth. It was during one of these freezing evenings on the last Tuesday of January that everything changed. Cameron had called a surprise in itself, asking if I could drop off some documents he'd left at my place months ago. Legal papers from a case he'd been working on. "I'm in court all day tomorrow and I need them by evening," he'd explained. "Could you maybe swing by my apartment and leave them with the doorman?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Thanks, Mom. Spare keys still in the same place if the doorman's on break. Third planter from the left." The next day I bundled up against the cold and took the subway to Tribeca. Cameron's apartment building was the kind with a gym on the second floor and a rooftop terrace I'd never been allowed to access. The doorman wasn't at his post, so I retrieved the spare key from its hiding place and let myself up. I'd only been to Cameron's apartment a handful of times since he'd moved in, always at his invitation, always feeling like an intruder in this sleek modern space that bore no resemblance to the cramped apartments we'd shared throughout his childhood. The documents were exactly where he'd said they'd be in his home office. I grabbed the folder, turned to leave, and froze. On Cameron's desk, partially hidden under a law journal, was a thick document with prenuptial agreement printed across the top. I should have left. I should have respected his privacy, grabbed my documents, and walked away. But I saw my son's name on that paper, and something maternal instinct, maybe, or fear made me pull it out and read. The first few pages were standard boilerplate. Division of assets acquired before marriage. Provisions for shared property. Nothing unusual. Then I reached page 7. Section 7B, Income Distribution and Management. In the event of marriage continuation beyond initial period defined as first 5 years, 70% of income earned by Cameron Morrison shall be allocated to joint accounts, managed by designated trustees, specifically Marcus Sullivan and Victoria Sullivan, for purposes of estate planning, investment management, and family wealth preservation. I read it 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding. 70% of Cameron's income, managed by Amelia's parents, for 10 years. My hands started shaking so badly the pages rattled. I flipped ahead, finding more clauses that made my stomach turn. Financial decisions requiring approval from family committee. Real estate purchases subject to Sullivan Family Trust oversight. Investment strategies dictated by Marcus Sullivan's recommendations. This wasn't a prenuptial agreement. It was a financial takeover. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures, my hands trembling so violently that half the shots came out blurred. I took them again, forcing myself to stay calm to document everything. Then I carefully slid the document back where I'd found it, grabbed Cameron's legal papers, and left the apartment. I made it to the street before I had to sit down on a bench, my breath coming in short gasps. My phone rang. It was Rachel, my younger sister, calling from her law office in Boston. "Hey, Taylor, bad time." "Rachel," my voice cracked. "I need your help." 20 minutes later, I was in an Uber to Rachel's hotel. She'd caught the first train down from Boston the moment she'd heard the panic in my voice. We sat in her room at the Marriott in Midtown, my phone between us zoomed in on the photographs I'd taken. Rachel was silent for a long time, scrolling through the images. She'd been a family law attorney for 15 years, had seen every kind of prenup imaginable. Finally, she looked up. Her face was pale. "Taylor, this is financial fraud wrapped in legal language." "Can they do this? Is it even legal?" "Technically, if Cameron signs it willingly, yes. But this," she gestured at the phone, "this is predatory. These clauses essentially give Marcus Sullivan control over 70% of Cameron's earnings for a decade. And look here." She zoomed in on Section 9. "There's a clause about dissolution. If Cameron files for divorce within the first 10 years, he forfeits not just the managed income, but an additional penalty equal to 2 years' salary." They're trapping him. They're trying to. Rachel set down the phone. "The question is, does Cameron know what he's signing?" I thought about my son. Brilliant, yes. Top of his class at Columbia Law. But when it came to love to relationships, he was naive. He'd want to believe the best in people, especially people he loved. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I have to tell him." Rachel grabbed my hand. "Taylor, listen to me. If you go to Cameron with this right now, he might not believe you. He's in love. She's probably already painted you as the overprotective mother who doesn't want to let go." The truth of that hit hard, because Amelia had been doing exactly that subtly for months. So what do? Let him sign his life away? "No." Rachel stood pacing the small hotel room. "We need evidence. Real evidence, not just a predatory prenup. We need to know why the Sullivans are doing this. What's their financial situation? Why do they need control over Cameron's money? You think they're in trouble? I think people don't draft prenups like this unless they're desperate." She turned to me. "Do you remember that comment you saw online about Marcus Sullivan's fund going belly up? You think it's true? I think we need to find out, and I know someone who can help." Rachel's someone turned out to be James Cooper, a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud cases. We met him 3 days later at a coffee shop in the financial district. James was nothing like what I'd expected. No trench coat, no fedora, no cigarette dangling from his lips. He looked like an accountant, which Rachel explained he'd been before becoming an investigator. "Mrs. Morrison." He shook my hand firmly, then pulled out a tablet. Rachel filled me in on the basics. I've already done some preliminary research on Marcus Sullivan. That fast, financial records are more public than people think if you know where to look. He turned the tablet to face us. Marcus Sullivan ran a private equity fund called Sullivan Capital Partners from 2010 to 2020. At its peak, the fund managed approximately $200 million in assets. The number was so large it didn't feel real. And now, Rachel asked, now the fund is defunct, dissolved in November 2020 after what appears to be a series of catastrophic investment failures. He swiped to another screen. Marcus lost approximately $150 million of investor money in a tech startup that collapsed, another $40 million in a real estate venture in Florida that never broke ground. That's almost all of it, I said. Exactly. The remaining investors sued. Cases were settled out of court, likely for whatever assets Marcus had left, which according to public records wasn't much. He showed us more documents. Mortgages on properties in Connecticut and Manhattan, liens against vehicles, credit card debt in the hundreds of thousands. The Sullivans are broke, Rachel said flatly. Worse than broke. They're in debt to the tune of approximately $20 million spread across various creditors and legal settlements. I felt sick. But they look so wealthy. The clothes, the dinners, the jewelry. Smoke and mirrors, James said. It's not uncommon. Wealthy people or formerly wealthy people often maintain appearances to avoid social embarrassment and keep potential opportunities alive. Victoria Sullivan's jewelry, I'd bet half of it is cubic zirconia. The Connecticut house, mortgaged to the hilt. So they need Cameron's money, I said. More than that, they need Cameron's earning potential. James pulled up another document. Your son is on track to make partner at Morrison & Klein within 3 years. Once he makes partner, his annual income will likely exceed $700,000. Over 10 years, even after taxes, that's a substantial sum. $700,000. I couldn't even imagine it. The prenup is designed to funnel 70% of that into accounts they control, Rachel added. They're not just looking for a bailout. They're looking for a long-term solution to their financial crisis. And my son is that solution. James's expression was sympathetic. I'm sorry, Mrs. Morrison, but yes. We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop hummed with normal life. People ordering lattes, typing on laptops, laughing with friends. None of them knowing that my entire world was collapsing. What about Amelia? I finally asked. Does she know? James hesitated. That's where it gets complicated. I've been monitoring her emails. Wait, how? Don't ask. He held up a hand. Let's just say I have methods, and what I've found suggests that Amelia is conflicted. He pulled up a series of email exchanges between Amelia and Victoria dated over the past 6 months. The first was from September, from Victoria Sullivan to Amelia Sullivan, subject the Cameron situation. Darling, I know you have reservations, but you must understand this marriage is our only viable option. Your father's investors are circling, and without a stable income stream, we'll lose everything. Cameron is perfect. He's successful, he comes from nothing, so he'll be grateful for our connections, and most importantly, he loves you. Use that. This is about survival. I felt tears pricking my eyes. Rachel squeezed my hand. James scrolled to another email, this one from Amelia to Victoria, dated November. From Amelia Sullivan to Victoria Sullivan, subject re the Cameron situation. I've tried to talk to Daddy about scaling back his expectations. Cameron is a good man. He doesn't deserve to be manipulated like this. Yes, he can help us, but why does it have to be so predatory? Why can't we just be honest with him? She was trying to push back, Rachel said quietly. James nodded. Initially, yes, but look at this next one from 2 weeks ago. From Victoria Sullivan to Amelia Sullivan, subject reality. Enough. Your sentimentality is touching but useless. If you don't go through with this marriage and ensure that prenup is signed, your father will lose everything. We'll be sued into oblivion. Every connection we've built, every relationship that could help you in your career gone. And for what? Some noble idea about honesty, grow up, Amelia. This is how the world works. Secure the marriage, sign the prenup, save this family, or be responsible for destroying it. There was no response from Amelia after that. She caved, I whispered. She's scared, James corrected gently. Amelia Sullivan is a 27-year-old woman who's been told her entire life that family loyalty is everything. Her parents are leveraging that against her. That doesn't make it right. No, he agreed. It doesn't. I looked at the emails at this portrait of a woman I'd wanted to see as a villain. And I realized she was more complicated than that. She wasn't evil. She was trapped. But she was still trapping my son. "There's more," James said, pulling up another document. I found evidence of another player in this situation. The document showed wire transfers from an account labeled M. Reed Holdings to Victoria Sullivan's personal account. Small amounts, $5,000 here, $3,000 there, but consistent over the past year. "Who's Emma Reed?" Rachel asked. "Marcus Reed. He's Amelia's boss at Lux & Co. He's also one of the investors who lost money when Sullivan Capital Partners collapsed." "Oh no," I breathed. "It gets worse." Marcus Reed and Amelia were involved in an affair that lasted approximately 4 months. It ended 2 months ago, but Reed has been sending money to Victoria, essentially blackmail payments. He's threatening to expose the affair unless the Sullivans pay back the money Marcus Sullivan lost, which they can't do. "So he's blackmailing them into blackmailing Cameron," Rachel said. "It's a cascade of desperation," James confirmed. "Reed wants his money back. The Sullivans need Cameron's income to pay Reed and their other debts. Amelia is caught in the middle, and Cameron is completely unaware." I stood up, needing to move to think. My mind was racing. "I have to tell him." "Taylor," Rachel started, "I have to tell him. He deserves to know." "I agree," James said. "But you need to be strategic. If you go to Cameron with this, Amelia and her family will deny everything. They'll say the emails are fabricated, that the financial records are misleading, that you're a bitter mother who can't accept her son's happiness." "Then what do I do?" James and Rachel exchanged a look. "You need more than information," Rachel said slowly. "You need leverage. Leverage, evidence that can't be denied. Public evidence." James pulled up one more document on his tablet. "I can get you everything you need, financial records, emails, documentation of Reed's blackmail. But we need to be smart about when and how you use it." "When's the wedding?" Rachel asked. "June 15th, 5 months from now." "That gives us time," James said. "Time to build an airtight case. Time to find the right moment." I looked at these two people, my sister and a stranger who'd become an ally, and felt a surge of something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. "Tell me what to do," I said, and that's when we started planning. Over the next 6 weeks, my life became a covert operation. I continued my regular routine, picking up nursing shifts, attending my book club, having coffee with Linda. But underneath it all, I was gathering evidence with James's help. We documented everything: Marcus Sullivan's bankruptcy filings, Victoria's credit card debt, the mortgage on their Connecticut estate, Marcus Reed's wire transfers, every email between Amelia and her mother that showed the depth of the manipulation. James even found records of a lawsuit pending against Marcus from another investor, one that could result in criminal charges if it went to trial. "This is bigger than just your son," James told me during one of our meetings in February. "Marcus Sullivan has defrauded multiple investors. If this gets exposed publicly, it could bring down the whole family." "Good," I said, surprising myself with my venom. Rachel looked concerned. "Taylor, I need to ask you something. What's your endgame here?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do you want to happen? Do you want Cameron to call off the wedding? Do you want to destroy the Sullivans? Do you want Amelia to pay?" I thought about it. Thought about Amelia's emails, her obvious distress, her unsuccessful attempts to push back against her parents. "I want Cameron to have the truth," I said finally. "I want him to make an informed decision about his life. If he still wants to marry Amelia after knowing everything, if he loves her enough to help her escape her family's mess, then I'll support that. But he deserves to choose, not to be manipulated." Rachel smiled sadly. "You're a better person than I am." "I'm just a mother protecting her son." But even as I said it, I wondered if I was lying. Because part of me, a dark, angry part I didn't like to acknowledge, wanted to see the Sullivans suffer. Wanted them to feel the humiliation and powerlessness they'd made me feel. Wanted revenge. In early March, 2 weeks before what would become the most important confrontation of my life, Cameron called. "Mom, can we talk?" My heart leapt. "Of course, sweetheart. What's going on?" I miss you. I feel like we barely see each other anymore." "I miss you too. Can I come over tonight, just the two of us?" Yes, of course." He showed up at 7 with Thai food from my favorite place, the cheap one near my apartment that we used to go to when he was in college. We ate sitting on my lumpy couch, just like old times. "So," he said between bites of pad Thai, "how have you been, really? I've been okay, keeping busy. With what? I thought about the investigation, the evidence, the plans. Just life stuff, you know. He nodded, but he looked troubled. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. My pulse quickened. Okay. Do you like Amelia? The question hung between us. I could lie. I could say, yes, she's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. I could take the easy path. But I'd never lied to my son. I think, I said carefully, that Amelia is in a difficult situation, and I think you deserve someone who puts you first. Cameron set down his food. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now. Because you don't want to tell me you don't like her. Because it's more complicated than like or dislike. I took his hand. Cameron, do you know anything about Amelia's family's financial situation? His expression shuddered. Why would you ask that? Because I care about you. Because something doesn't feel right. Mom, he pulled his hand away. I know what you're doing. Amelia warned me you might try to turn me against her family. She warned you. She said sometimes mothers have trouble letting go, that they see problems where there aren't any because they don't want their sons to leave them. The words hit like a slap, because they were exactly what I'd feared, exactly the narrative Amelia had been building. Cameron, I love you, Mom. You know I do. But Amelia is going to be my wife, and I need you to respect that. He left shortly after taking most of the Thai food with him. I sat alone in my apartment, the remaining pad Thai congealing in its container, and I realized that I was running out of time. The wedding was in 3 months. Cameron was already defending Amelia against me. If I was going to save my son, I needed to act soon. Very soon. April arrived with cherry blossoms and wedding invitations. The invitation came in the mail on a Tuesday. Cream-colored cardstock, embossed lettering, the kind that cost $5 per piece. I opened it standing at my mailbox, my hands trembling slightly. Mr. and Mrs. Marcus Sullivan requests the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter, Amelia Catherine Sullivan, to Cameron James Morrison. My name appeared nowhere on the invitation, not as mother of the groom, not even in small print at the bottom. I was just another guest. I called Rachel that night, my voice tight with anger I'd been holding in for weeks. They didn't even list me on the invitation. That's deliberate, Rachel said. They're erasing you from the narrative, making Cameron think his life started when he met Amelia. It's working. He barely calls anymore. Taylor, we're 3 weeks out. James has everything we need. When are you going to tell Cameron? I looked at the scrapbook I'd been working on for months. Every page a memory. Cameron's first day of kindergarten, his high school graduation, the day he got his law degree, 28 years of love documented in photographs and handwritten notes. The rehearsal dinner, I said. I'll give him the scrapbook, and if Amelia tries to stop me, I'll tell him everything right there. Are you sure you want to do it that publicly? I'm tired of being quiet, Rachel. I'm tired of being pushed aside like I don't matter. Okay? Her voice was gentle. Then let's make sure you're ready. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. I finished the scrapbook, every page perfect. I rehearsed what I'd say to Cameron. I practiced staying calm when I imagined Amelia's inevitable interference. James provided me with a USB drive containing all the evidence. Financial records, emails, documentation of Marcus Reed's blackmail. Everything organized and irrefutable. Keep this somewhere safe, he told me. If things go sideways at the rehearsal dinner, this is your insurance policy. I wore the USB drive on a chain around my neck, hidden under my clothes. It felt like carrying a bomb. Dr. Linda tried to counsel me over coffee 3 days before the dinner. Taylor, I have to ask, are you sure this is the right approach, confronting them all at once? What choice do I have? Cameron won't listen to me. He thinks I'm just a jealous mother. Maybe because you're going about this the wrong way. Linda stirred her coffee thoughtfully. What if instead of confronting Amelia, you just talk to Cameron privately, show him the evidence without making it a dramatic scene? I tried that. He shut me down. So you're going to ambush him at his rehearsal dinner. When she put it that way, it sounded awful. But what else could I do? I'm out of options, Linda. If I don't do something now, he's going to marry her. And 5 years from now, when he realizes what she's done, it'll be too late. Linda sighed. Just be careful. Sometimes trying to save people pushes them further away. Her words haunted me over the next few days. The morning of the rehearsal dinner, I woke up with a headache that no amount of coffee could cure. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying every possible scenario. Cameron would see the scrapbook and realize what he was losing. Or Cameron would think I was trying to manipulate him. Amelia would back down when confronted with evidence. Or Amelia would double down and paint me as unstable. The Sullivans would confess and beg forgiveness. Or the Sullivans would destroy me. I spent 3 hours getting ready, changing outfits 4 times. The rehearsal dinner was at the Riverside Terrace, a venue overlooking the Hudson River. Cocktail attire required. I finally settled on the pale blue dress I'd bought for the wedding itself. If this was my last chance to be Cameron's mother in a meaningful way, I wanted to look my best. At 5 o'clock, I took the subway to the venue, the scrapbook wrapped carefully in tissue paper, the USB drive cold against my chest. The Riverside Terrace was beautiful in the early evening light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, white tablecloths and crystal glasses, flowers everywhere, peonies and roses, Amelia's favorites, each arrangement probably costing more than my monthly rent. I arrived early as planned. The rehearsal itself was still happening. The wedding party was across the lawn at the ceremony site, practicing their processional. Only a few guests had arrived. I recognized some of them from Cameron's life college friends, law school classmates. They greeted me warmly, asking how I'd been commenting on how proud I must be. I smiled and nodded and tried not to scream. Victoria Sullivan arrived at 5:30 in a cloud of expensive perfume and barely concealed disdain. She spotted me immediately. "Taylor, how punctual of you." Her eyes swept over my dress. "Isn't that what you're wearing to the wedding tomorrow?" "I might be," I said evenly. Well, I suppose nurses don't have extensive wardrobes." She drifted away before I could respond. Marcus arrived shortly after, already holding a scotch he must have acquired somewhere. He clapped men on the back, laughed too loudly, played the part of successful businessman. I wondered how many people in this room knew he was bankrupt. At 6 o'clock, the wedding party returned from rehearsal. Cameron looked handsome in khakis and a blue button-down. He was laughing at something his best man Jake had said. Then he saw me. His smile faltered just for a moment before he crossed the terrace. "Mom, you made it." "Of course I made it." I hugged him, holding on perhaps a moment too long. He felt thinner than I remembered. "How was rehearsal?" "Good. A little chaotic, but good." He glanced over his shoulder to where Amelia stood with her bridesmaids. "Listen, Mom, about the other night." "It's fine, sweetheart. We don't have to talk about it. I just want you to know I love you. That hasn't changed." "I know." I touched his face, of this boy I'd raised, this man I barely recognized anymore. "I love you too. More than anything." Amelia appeared at his elbow, radiant in a white sundress that probably cost $1,000. Her smile was bright, but her eyes were wary. "Taylor, so glad you could join us." She linked her arm through Cameron's possessively. "Isn't this venue gorgeous? I wanted something romantic, but not too formal." "It's beautiful," I agreed. "Cameron, honey, your groomsmen are waiting. Something about the boutonnieres." She kissed his cheek. "I'll keep your mom company." Cameron hesitated, looking between us. Then Jake called his name and he excused himself, leaving me alone with Amelia. For a moment we just stood there, 2 women connected only by the man we both claimed to love. "That's a lovely scrapbook," Amelia said, eyeing the package in my hands. "What's that for?" "It's for Cameron. His baby book, school photos, memories. I thought he might like to have it." "How thoughtful." Her tone suggested it was anything but. "Though I'm not sure tonight is the best time. We have a very tight schedule. Dinner at 7, toasts at 8, and we need to wrap up by 9:30 because Cameron and I have an early morning tomorrow." "I'll be quick." "Still," Amelia's smile turned sharp. "Maybe it would be better to give it to him tomorrow, at the wedding, or better yet, after the honeymoon. We'll have more time to appreciate it then." After the honeymoon. After he'd signed the prenup. After it was too late. "I think tonight is perfect," I said firmly. Amelia's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Morrison." "It's Taylor. You've been calling me Taylor for months." "Fine, Taylor." She glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to hear. "I need you to understand something. Tomorrow is the most important day of Cameron's life, our life together, and I can't have you causing problems." "Causing problems? I'm his mother." "You're a mother who can't accept that her son has grown up." Amelia's voice was low, controlled. I've tried to be understanding. I know it's hard to let go, but this constant hovering, this need to be involved in everything, it has to stop. Heat flooded my face. I'm not hovering. I'm trying to be part of his life. By interrogating me about my family's finances, by questioning Cameron about our relationship, by showing up unannounced at his apartment. She stepped closer. Yes, the doorman told me about that. How you let yourself in with the spare key. He asked me to drop off documents, and you snooped through his office. My blood ran cold. She knew I'd seen the prenup. Amelia's smile was triumphant. Did you really think we wouldn't notice the papers had been moved? Cameron's a lawyer, Taylor. He notices details. Then why hasn't he said anything? Because I told him it was probably the cleaning lady. Because I didn't want to hurt him by suggesting his own mother would violate his privacy. She paused. But I'm telling you now. I know what you saw. I know what you think you know. And I'm telling you to let it go. Let it go. You're stealing from him. I'm securing our future. Her voice dropped to a whisper. My family has had some setbacks, yes, but Cameron and I love each other, and families help each other. That's what marriage is. Marriage isn't fraud, Amelia. Fraud, she laughed, but it sounded forced. Is that what you think this is? My God, Taylor? You really are delusional. Guests were starting to gather around the tables. The coordinator was signaling that dinner would be served soon. We didn't have much time. I'm giving Cameron this scrapbook tonight, I said, and I'm telling him what I found. Amelia's composure cracked. Real fear flashed across her face. You can't. Taylor, please. Please what? Please let you manipulate my son. You don't understand. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. She looked around frantically, then grabbed my arm, pulling me toward a quieter corner of the terrace. Away from the other guests. Away from Cameron. When we stopped, she was shaking. My father is in trouble, she said in a rush. Real trouble. The kind that ends with prison time if he can't pay back his investors. I know. I've seen the lawsuits. Her eyes widened. How much do you know? Everything. Marcus Reed, the affair, the blackmail, your mother's emails, all of it. Amelia's face went white. She leaned against the railing, looking like she might be sick. Oh God, if Cameron finds out. He deserves to find out, Amelia. You've been lying to him for months. I never wanted this. Tears spilled down her cheeks, ruining her carefully applied makeup. I never wanted to trap him or use him. I love Cameron. I really do. Then why are you doing this? Because if I don't, my father goes to prison. My mother loses everything. Marcus Reed will destroy us. She wiped at her eyes with shaking hands. You don't know what it's like growing up in that world, where everything is about maintaining appearances, where your value is measured by your last name and your bank account. So you decided to measure Cameron by his bank account instead. No, I decided to save my family. Can't you understand that? She looked at me with something like desperation. You spent 28 years sacrificing for Cameron. You worked yourself to the bone to give him a better life. How is what I'm doing any different? The comparison stunned me. It's completely different. I never lied to Cameron. I never manipulated him. Didn't you? Amelia's voice turned hard. You made him feel guilty every time he wanted to be independent. You made him think he owed you his entire life because you raised him alone. That's not true. Isn't it? Why do you think he works so hard? Why do you think he chose corporate law instead of the public interest work he actually cares about? Because you sacrificed so much that he feels like he has to earn enough to pay you back. Her words hit like physical blows, because there was a kernel of truth there, one I didn't want to acknowledge. At least I never stole from him, I said. Neither have I. Not yet. Amelia straightened, composing herself. The prenup hasn't been signed. Cameron and I are meeting with the lawyer on Monday. I still have time to change it. Will you? She hesitated. And in that hesitation, I saw the truth. I don't know, she admitted. I want to, but if I do, my father... Taylor, they're talking about 20 years in prison. 20 years. That's not Cameron's responsibility. I know. God, I know. But he's not just my fiancé. After tomorrow, he's family. And families help each other. By stealing 70% of his income. By pooling resources. By standing together. Her voice broke. You wouldn't understand. You never had family wealth to lose. The classism in that statement was breathtaking. You're right. I never had wealth. I just had love and integrity, and I raised my son to have the same. That's very noble. But nobility doesn't keep your father out of prison. We stared at each other, two women on opposite sides of an impossible divide. I'm telling him, I said finally. Tonight. I'm sorry about your father, Amelia. Truly I am. But I won't let you destroy my son to save him. Amelia's expression hardened. The tears dried up, replaced by something cold and calculated. If you do that, you'll lose Cameron forever. What the? He loves me, Taylor, and he already thinks you're overbearing. If you stand up in front of all his friends and family and accuse me of being a gold digger, if you humiliate him like that, he will never forgive you. He'll forgive me when he realizes I was right. Will he? Or will he resent you for ruining the happiest day of his life? She stepped closer. Think about what you're doing. Really think. Is this about protecting Cameron? Or is it about you not being able to accept that he chose me over you? He didn't choose you over me. That's not how this works. That's exactly how it works. He's building a new life, a new family, and you're not the center of it anymore. Her voice dropped to a whisper. After tomorrow, you're not part of this family anymore. The words hung in the air between us. After tomorrow, Amelia continued, Cameron will be my husband, my family, and you, she looked me up and down. You're just extra baggage, the woman who raised him, sure, but not part of his future. My hands clenched around the scrapbook. How dare you? I'm being honest, something you claim to value. She glanced over to where Cameron was laughing with Jake. Don't embarrass yourself by clinging on Taylor. Don't make him choose between us, because you'll lose. Then let me tell him the truth and see who he chooses. Fine. Amelia's smile was cruel. Go ahead. Stand up at dinner. Make your little speech. Show everyone your evidence, and watch Cameron hate you for it. She started to walk away, then turned back. Or you could just not come tomorrow. Spare us all the drama. Sleep in. Take a day for yourself. Her voice turned falsely sympathetic. You've earned it after all those years of sacrifice. Don't you deserve a break? Then she walked back toward the other guests, leaving me standing alone by the railing. I looked down at the scrapbook in my hands. 28 years of memories. 28 years of love. And I realized Amelia was right about one thing. If I confronted her publicly tonight, Cameron might never forgive me. But if I stayed silent, I'd lose him anyway. I stood at that railing for a long time, watching the sun set over the Hudson River, watching the servers set out the dinner, watching Cameron and Amelia together, her hand on his arm, his smile genuine and happy. Dr. Linda's words came back to me. Sometimes trying to save people pushes them further away. Rachel's question, what's your end game here? And my own answer. I want Cameron to have the truth. But did he want the truth? Or did he want to be happy, even if that happiness was built on lies? My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. How's it going? Did you talk to Cameron? I looked at the scrapbook, at the USB drive around my neck, at my son laughing with his friends, oblivious to the war being waged over his future. And I made a decision. I turned and walked off the terrace, past the arriving guests, past the coordinator who called out asking if I was feeling all right, past it all. I woke up at 5 a.m. on Cameron's wedding day. For a moment, I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling of my small apartment. Today was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Watching my son marry the woman he loved. Celebrating the family he was creating. Instead, I felt hollow. The scrapbook sat on my kitchen table, still wrapped in tissue paper. I'd brought it home last night, unable to go through with my plan. Unable to risk losing Cameron entirely. But I also couldn't go to that wedding and watch him sign away his future. So I'd made the hardest choice of my life. I wasn't going. My phone started ringing at 6:30. Cameron. I let it go to voicemail. Mom, hey, it's me. Just wanted to check in, make sure you're awake. The wedding starts at 11, but photos are at 9:30, and I was hoping to see you before. Anyway, call me back. I deleted the message. At 7, Rachel called. Taylor, what the hell are you doing? I can't go, Rachel. What do you mean you can't go? We planned this. You have all the evidence, and if I use it, I lose my son. Amelia made that very clear last night. So you're just giving up. I'm choosing Cameron's relationship with me over my relationship with the truth. I rubbed my eyes, exhausted. If I go to that wedding and expose Amelia, Cameron will hate me. Maybe forever. At least this way, when it all falls apart, and it will fall apart, he'll still have a mother to turn to. Rachel was silent for a long moment. You're sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. At 8, Cameron called again. I listened to the voicemail. Mom, you're worrying me. Where are you? Everyone's asking. Please call me back. At 8:30, texts started flooding in from other guests. Taylor, are you okay? Mrs. Morrison Cameron is looking for you. Everything all right? I turned off my phone. At 9 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I knew who it would be before I opened it. Rachel, still in her bridesmaid's dress from last night's rehearsal dinner, her face flushed from the subway ride to my apartment. Let me in, Taylor. I stepped aside. She came in, took one look at me still in my pajamas, the blue dress hanging on the back of my door, and sat down on my couch. Tell me what happened at the rehearsal dinner. So I did. All of it. Amelia's threats, her revelations about her father, her manipulation. When I finished, Rachel was quiet. She's good, she finally said. I'll give her that. She found your weak spot and exploited it. My weak spot? Your fear of losing Cameron. Rachel leaned forward. Taylor, listen to me. Amelia is counting on you being too scared to act. She's banking on your love for Cameron keeping you silent. Isn't that what love is, putting someone else first? Not when they don't have all the information. Not when they're being manipulated. She pulled out her phone. James sent me something this morning. New evidence. You need to see it. She showed me emails dated from last week. Exchanges between Marcus Sullivan and his lawyer about how to structure the prenup to maximize asset protection while minimizing risk of contestation. Another email from Victoria to Amelia. Make sure Cameron signs the prenup at the courthouse on Monday. Don't give him time to think about it or show it to his own lawyer. And then the final email. From Amelia to someone named Marcus Reed. It's done. Cameron's signing Monday. You'll have your money by end of month. Just please leave my family alone. I looked up at Rachel. She's still going through with it. Of course she is, because you backed down. You gave her exactly what she wanted, your silence. So what do I do? Storm the wedding, make a scene? No. Rachel's smile was grim. You send Cameron the evidence, right now, before the ceremony, and you let him decide what to do with it. He won't believe it. He'll think I doctored it. Then he's not as smart as you raised him to be. She grabbed my phone, turned it on, and thrust it at me. Send it, Taylor. Send it all. And then get dressed and go to that wedding. Because whatever happens, your son is going to need his mother. My hands shook as I opened my email. As I attached all the files James had compiled, financial records, email exchanges, documentation of Marcus Reed's blackmail. In the message field, I typed, Cameron, I know you'll think I'm trying to sabotage your happiness. Maybe you're right. But I'd rather have you hate me for telling you the truth than hate yourself later for not knowing it. Everything you need to know is in these files. Read them. Then decide. I love you. I always have. I always will. Mom. I stared at the send button for a full minute. Then I pressed it. The email sent at 9:47 a.m. I took the fastest shower of my life, threw on the blue dress, did my makeup in the cab. Rachel sat beside me, both of us silent. Both of us knowing we'd just set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. What if he doesn't read it? I asked as we got stuck in traffic on the way to the Plaza Hotel. He'll read it. Cameron checks his email compulsively. What if he reads it and doesn't believe it? Then we tried. That's all we can do. The cab dropped us off at the Plaza at 10:35 a.m. The wedding started at 11. We were cutting it close. The lobby was chaos. Wedding guests in their finest clothes. Photographers with massive cameras, a string quartet warming up somewhere, and everywhere the whisper of expensive fabric and expensive perfume. I followed Rachel toward the ceremony space, a ballroom that had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. White flowers everywhere, crystal chandeliers, gold chairs arranged in perfect rows. At the front near the altar I spotted Victoria Sullivan in a cream-colored gown that probably cost more than my car. Marcus stood beside her in a custom tuxedo, already drinking champagne. Neither of them had noticed me yet. Mrs. Morrison, a coordinator, appeared at my elbow, clipboard in hand. Thank goodness Mr. Morrison has been looking everywhere for you. He's in the groom's suite on the 3rd floor. I'll go, Rachel said. You stay here. Find a seat. She disappeared before I could argue. I found a seat in the back row, far from the Sullivans, far from the front where I'd be visible, just close enough to see. Guests filtered in. Cameron's law school friends, colleagues from his firm, people I'd never met, people who didn't know me, people who saw me as just another middle-aged woman in a cheap dress. At 10:55, the string quartet began playing. The ceremony was about to start. Where was Cameron? At 10:58, Victoria noticed me. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. She whispered something to Marcus, who turned to look. He didn't look pleased. At 10:59, the wedding coordinator appeared looking stressed. She spoke to Victoria, whose face turned red. Something was wrong. At 11:10, when the ceremony should have started, the doors to the groom's suite burst open. Cameron appeared, but not in his tuxedo. In khakis and the button-down shirt from yesterday's rehearsal. His hair was disheveled. His face was pale, and in his hand was his phone. He'd read the email. The ballroom fell silent as Cameron strode down the aisle, not toward the altar, toward the bridal suite. Victoria tried to intercept him. Cameron, darling, what's wrong? You should be... He brushed past her without a word. Marcus called out, Son, the ceremony. There isn't going to be a ceremony. Cameron's voice cut through the room. Not until I talk to Amelia. Now. He disappeared into the bridal suite. The doors closed behind him. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Guests turned to each other, confused, concerned. The coordinator looked like she might faint. I stood up, started moving toward the front. I needed to be there. Whatever was happening, I needed to be there for my son. Rachel grabbed my arm. Let them talk first. But trust me, let them talk. We waited. The entire ballroom waited. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10. Then we heard shouting, muffled through the doors but unmistakable. Cameron's voice. Were you ever going to tell me Amelia's high or desperate? It's not what you think. More shouting. Something crashed. At minute 12, the doors opened. Cameron walked out. His face was red, his eyes wet. He looked devastated. Behind him, Amelia appeared in her wedding dress. A $30,000 gown of silk and lace. Her makeup was ruined, black streaks of mascara running down her face. Cameron, please. She reached for him. He pulled away. Don't. Just don't. He walked to the front of the ballroom to the microphone that was supposed to be used for the ceremony. His hands shook as he gripped it. I need to say something. His voice cracked. To everyone. I'm sorry you came all this way. I'm sorry you're dressed up and expecting a wedding. But there isn't going to be one. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I just found out, Cameron continued, his voice gaining strength, that the woman I was about to marry has been lying to me. About her family's finances, about her intentions, about a lot of things. Victoria stood up. This is inappropriate, Cameron. If you have concerns, we can discuss them privately. Like you discussed them privately with Amelia. Cameron's laugh was bitter. Like you discussed how to maximize asset protection from my income. Like you discussed paying off your debts with money you plan to take from me. Marcus's face went purple. How dare you accuse... I have the emails, Marcus. All of them. Your bankruptcy filings, the lawsuits, everything. Cameron pulled out his phone, held it up. My mother, the woman you've all been so quick to dismiss as overprotective, she actually protected me. She found the truth you were all hiding. He looked directly at me then, and I saw it in his eyes, not anger, gratitude. I'm sorry, Mom, he said, his voice breaking, for not listening, for thinking you were jealous when you were just trying to save me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Amelia stepped forward, her voice small. Cameron, it wasn't supposed to be like this. I love you. Do you? He turned to her. Or do you love what I represent, what I can provide? Both, she whispered. God help me, both. The honesty of it seemed to stun him. At least you're finally telling the truth, he said. Marcus started toward Cameron, his face furious. You ungrateful little... Don't. Jake appeared from somewhere along with 2 other groomsmen, forming a wall between Marcus and Cameron. I think you've done enough. This is slander, Victoria shrieked. We'll sue you, we'll ruin you. With what money? Cameron's voice was cold. According to these financial records, you don't have any. In fact, you have negative money. You're millions in debt." A coordinator appeared, whispering frantically to Victoria about the venue fee, about payments that were overdue. The perfect Sullivan facade was crumbling in real time. "Everyone should leave," Cameron said into the microphone. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you came for, but thank you for being here. It means more than you know." Guests started filing out, some stopping to pat Cameron on the shoulder, others whispering excitedly about the drama they'd just witnessed. Amelia stood frozen in her wedding dress, tears streaming down her face. She looked at me once, and I saw it there, not hatred, but something like recognition. We'd both lost today. Then she turned and walked back into the bridal suite, her mother following, already on her phone with lawyers. Marcus lingered, glaring at me with pure venom. "This is your fault. You did this." "No," I said quietly. "You did this, when you decided to use my son to fix your mistakes." He looked like he might say something else. Then he just turned and stalked away, leaving just me, Rachel, Cameron, and Jake in the ballroom that should have held a wedding. Cameron walked toward me slowly. When he reached me, he just stood there for a moment. Then he collapsed into my arms. "I'm sorry, Mom," he sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "Shh, it's okay. It's okay now. She told me she loved me. How could she love me and lie like that? I held my son while he cried in that ballroom, surrounded by flowers and broken dreams. And I thought about Amelia's question from last night. Is this about protecting Cameron? Or is it about you not being able to accept that he chose me over you?" Maybe it had been a little of both. But right now, holding my broken-hearted son, I knew one thing for certain. I'd made the right choice. We stayed in that empty ballroom for 20 minutes. Just me, Cameron, Rachel, and Jake. 4 people surrounded by 400 empty chairs and thousands of dollars worth of flowers that would never grace a wedding reception. Cameron finally pulled away from my embrace, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. He looked younger than 28. He looked like the 7-year-old boy who'd cried in my arms the night his father left. "What do I do now, Mom?" His voice was small, lost. "Now you go home, you rest, and tomorrow you start figuring out your next steps." "I can't go home. Amelia's stuff is everywhere. Our apartment—" His voice broke. "I can't be there." "Then come stay with me." He looked at my face, really looked for the first time in months. "Your apartment is tiny. It has a couch, and it has me." I touched his cheek. "That's all that matters right now." Jake stepped forward. "Actually, man, why don't you crash at my place? I've got a guest room. You can have some space to think." Cameron nodded gratefully. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jake." Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her expression darkened. "Taylor, we need to go. Now." "What's wrong?" She showed me her screen. A video already going viral on social media. Someone had recorded Cameron's speech at the altar. The caption read, "Groom exposes gold digger bride at altar. Wedding canceled." It had 60,000 views, and it had been posted 12 minutes ago. "Oh no," I breathed. By the time we got Cameron to Jake's apartment in Greenwich Village, the video had 300,000 views. By evening, it was at 2 million. I spent that night in my apartment watching my phone blow up with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. "Taylor, I saw the video. I can't believe it. OMG, is that your son? What happened? You saved him. You're a hero." But for every supportive message, there was another kind. "I feel so bad for that poor bride. Humiliated in front of everyone. The mother probably made all this up because she couldn't let go. Gold digger or not, airing it publicly was cruel." I turned off my phone at midnight, but I couldn't sleep, because I kept seeing Amelia's face. The mascara-streaked tears, the wedding dress she'd probably spent months choosing, the dreams that had shattered in front of 200 people. Yes, she'd lied. Yes, she'd tried to trap Cameron, but she'd also been trapped herself, by her family, by Marcus Reed, by a system that valued money over everything else. At 2 a.m., my phone rang. I turned it back on to check if Cameron had called. It wasn't Cameron. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Mrs. Morrison," a woman's voice shaky and hoarse. It's Amelia." My breath caught. "Amelia, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something." She paused. "You were right. About everything. And I'm sorry." I sat up in bed, fully awake now. "Where are you?" A hotel. I couldn't go home. The paparazzi, there's photographers outside my parents' building. Outside the apartment Cameron and I shared. She let out a shaky breath. I wanted you to know that I'm not fighting this. The prenup, the wedding, any of it. It's over. Amelia. I also wanted to warn you. My father he's very angry. And when my father gets angry, he gets vengeful. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's talking about suing you, about claiming you interfered with a contract, that you spread lies to defame our family. I tried to talk him out of it, but he won't listen. Let him try. I have documentation for everything. I know, but Mrs. Morrison, my father doesn't play fair. He's already called our lawyers, and he's very good at making things look different than they are. After she hung up, I sat in the darkness of my apartment, Amelia's warning echoing in my mind. I should have felt victorious. I'd saved Cameron. I'd exposed the truth. So why did I feel like the worst was yet to come? The letter arrived 4 days later. I was at the hospital picking up a shift to keep myself busy when my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Don't panic, but check your mail when you get home. I left work early. The envelope was thick, expensive looking. Law firm letterhead, Whitmore, Sterling & Associates. Manhattan's most expensive lawyers. Inside was a cease and desist letter followed by a notice of intent to file a lawsuit. Marcus Sullivan was suing me for defamation, interference with contractual relations, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. He was asking for $500,000 in damages. My hands shook so badly I dropped the papers. $500,000. I didn't have $5,000 in my bank account, let alone $500,000. I called Rachel immediately. I just got it too, she said. I'm already on the phone with our lawyer. Taylor, don't panic. This is exactly what Amelia warned you about. Marcus is trying to intimidate you. It's working. Listen to me. This lawsuit is garbage. You didn't defame anyone. You told Cameron the truth backed by documentation. You didn't interfere with a contract because Cameron never signed the prenup. And emotional distress, please. They're grasping at straws. But can they win? Rachel hesitated. In court, no. But they can drag it out, make it expensive, make it painful. That's the point. I sank into my kitchen chair. I can't afford this, Rachel. I can't afford lawyers and court fees, and you won't have to. James and I are already working on a countersuit. We're going after Marcus for fraud, for attempting to defraud Cameron, for blackmail in the Marcus Reed situation. We'll bury him in so much legal trouble he won't have time to come after you. And if that doesn't work, then we go public. We release everything to the press. Every email, every financial record, every piece of evidence we have. Marcus Sullivan will be destroyed. But even as she said it, I felt sick, because going public meant destroying Amelia too. And despite everything, I didn't want that. The media attention got worse before it got better. Someone leaked my name to the press. Suddenly I wasn't just the groom's mother in the viral video. I was Taylor Morrison, retired nurse from Upper West Side. Reporters showed up at my apartment building. They called my phone. They contacted Dr. Linda, my former colleagues at the hospital, even my neighbors. The narrative split into two camps. Half the internet thought I was a hero. Mother saves son from gold digger. The comments were full of praise of people sharing their own stories of family members marrying the wrong person. But the other half thought I was a monster. Controlling mother ruined son's wedding. These comments were vicious. They called me jealous, bitter, unable to let go. They said I'd embarrassed Cameron, that he'd never forgive me. I stopped reading them after the first day. Cameron stayed at Jake's apartment for a week. He called me every day, but the conversations were stilted, awkward. We'd never been awkward before. "How are you doing, sweetheart?" I'd ask. "Fine, tired. Work's been..." People stare at me. "I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault, Mom. You did the right thing." But he didn't sound convinced. He sounded exhausted. On day 8, he finally came to visit me. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes. His clothes rumpled, his hair unwashed. "Cameron." I hugged him at the door. He hugged back, but it felt mechanical. "Come in. Are you hungry? I can make you out." "I'm not hungry." He sat on my couch, the same couch where we'd eaten Thai food just months ago. "Mom, we need to talk." My heart sank. "Okay." "Marcus Sullivan's lawyers contacted my firm. They're threatening to sue the firm too if I don't recant what I said at the wedding." "Recant you told the truth." I know, but they're claiming I defamed them without proof, that I damaged their reputation based on forged documents. The documents aren't forged. James can prove— I know, Mom, I know. He rubbed his face. But my firm is panicking. They don't want to be involved in this mess. They're talking about putting me on administrative leave until it's resolved. They can't do that. They can, actually. I looked at my contract. There's a morality clause about bringing negative attention to the firm. I felt rage building in my chest. So Marcus Sullivan tries to defraud you, and you're the one being punished. That's how it works when you're up against people with money and connections. His voice was bitter. The Sullivans still have friends in this city. People who believe their version of events. People who think I humiliated a nice family because my controlling mother convinced me to. The words stung. Is that what you think? No, God, no. He looked at me and I saw the exhaustion in his eyes. But Mom, I'm tired. I'm so tired of fighting, of explaining, of defending you to people who've already made up their minds. Then stop defending me. I can take care of myself. Can you— He gestured at the papers on my table, the lawsuit documents. Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to be sued for $500,000 by a man with nothing left to lose. We sat in silence. What do you want me to do? I finally asked. I don't know. His voice cracked. I don't know anything anymore. A month ago I was getting married. I was happy, or I thought I was. And now everything's in pieces and I don't know how to put it back together. I moved to sit beside him, taking his hand. You don't put it back together, sweetheart. You build something new. With what, I'm probably going to lose my job. Amelia's family is suing you. My reputation is destroyed. He laughed bitterly. I'm 28 years old and my life is over. Your life is not over. This is just a chapter. A bad chapter, yes, but not the end. He looked at me with those eyes I'd known since he was born. I wish I had your faith. After he left, I sat alone in my apartment and cried. Not because of the lawsuit, not because of the media attention, but because my son was breaking and I didn't know how to fix him. James Cooper called me 2 days later with news. I found something big. We met at the same coffee shop where this had all started. James had his tablet, but his expression was different. Excited, almost triumphant. Marcus Sullivan isn't just bankrupt, he said. He's under federal investigation. For what? Securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering. The FBI has been building a case against him for 2 years. He showed me documents, official FBI investigation records that he absolutely should not have had access to. How did you get these? Don't ask, but here's what matters. Marcus Sullivan didn't just lose his investors' money. He stole it. He moved funds through shell companies, paid himself millions in management fees, and then claimed the investments failed. Can they prove it? They're about to. The FBI is planning to arrest him within the week. They've been waiting to build an airtight case, but with all the publicity from the wedding disaster, they're accelerating their timeline. I stared at the documents. So the lawsuit is a distraction. Marcus knows he's about to be arrested. He's trying to tie up everyone who could testify against him in civil lawsuits. If he can paint you as a liar, if he can discredit Cameron as a vengeful ex-fiancée, then your testimony becomes less reliable. That's insane. That's desperation. James swiped to another document. There's more. Marcus Reed, Amelia's ex-lover, he's been cooperating with the FBI. He's testifying against Marcus Sullivan in exchange for immunity on the blackmail charges. Does Amelia know? I don't think so. Reed only started cooperating 3 days ago after the wedding fell apart. I think he realized the Sullivans couldn't pay him back, so he cut a deal to save himself. My phone buzzed. Rachel. Turn on Channel 7 News, now. I pulled out my phone, found the news app. The headline made my breath catch. Manhattan financier Marcus Sullivan arrested on fraud charges. The video showed Marcus being led out of his building in handcuffs, photographers swarming Victoria, screaming at the officers. The reporter's voiceover explained, Marcus Sullivan, once a prominent hedge fund manager, was arrested this morning on multiple charges of securities fraud and money laundering. Federal prosecutors allege Sullivan defrauded investors of over $150 million. James smiled grimly. Looks like the FBI moved even faster than I thought. What does this mean for the lawsuit against me? It means it's over. A man facing federal fraud charges doesn't have the credibility to sue you for defamation. His lawyers will drop it within days. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt a strange sadness. Because somewhere in Manhattan, Amelia was watching her father get arrested, watching her family's final destruction play out on live television. Cameron showed up at my apartment that night without calling first. I opened the door to find him standing there with a duffel bag, his eyes red from crying. "Can I stay here, Mom, just for a few days?" "Of course, always." He came in, dropped his bag by the door, and sank onto my couch. "I saw the news about Marcus." "I know, sweetheart. Amelia called me. He shook his head. "She's devastated. Her father's looking at 20 years in prison. Her mother's in denial. And Amelia, she's lost everything. I'm sorry. Are you—" He looked at me, and I saw the question in his eyes. "Because part of me wonders if you wanted this, if you wanted them to be destroyed." The accusation hurt, but it was fair. "No," I said honestly. "I wanted you to be safe. I wanted you to know the truth, but I never wanted Amelia to suffer like this. She's talking about leaving New York, starting over somewhere else. Maybe Chicago, maybe California." His voice was hollow. "She said she can't stay here, not with everyone knowing what her family did." "What did you say?" I said I understood. What else could I say? He put his head in his hands. "Mom, I know she lied to me. I know her family tried to use me, but I still care about her." "I know you do." "Does that make me stupid?" "It makes you human." I sat beside him. Love doesn't just disappear because someone hurts you. It takes time to fade, and sometimes it never does completely. He leaned against me like he used to when he was little. "How do you do it, Mom? How did you survive when Dad left? How did you not become bitter?" I thought about that question, about the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, about the years of struggle, about the anger I'd had to consciously let go of. "I had you," I said simply. "I had a reason to keep going, a reason to be better than my pain. I don't have that. I don't have a kid to raise. I don't even have a job anymore." The firm let me go this afternoon. They called it mutual agreement to part ways, but we both know what it really was. He laughed bitterly. "Turns out being the center of a viral wedding scandal is bad for business." "Oh, Cameron. It's fine. It's all fine. I'm 28, unemployed, single, living with my mother, and probably going to be a punchline on the internet forever." He looked at me. "But at least I have you. At least I have someone who actually gives a damn about me." I held him while he cried. My brilliant, heartbroken son. And I made a decision. If the world wanted to tear him down, I would build him back up, no matter how long it took. Over the next 2 weeks, Cameron lived on my couch. We fell into a routine. I'd wake up early, make coffee, leave him sleeping while I went to my nursing shifts. He'd spend his days applying for jobs, going to interviews, trying to rebuild his life. At night, we'd have dinner together, nothing fancy, just whatever I could afford, and we'd talk. Really talk in a way we hadn't in years. He told me about the relationship with Amelia, how it had started genuine, but gradually become something else. How he'd ignored the red flags because he'd wanted so badly to believe in love. "I thought if I could just love her enough, it would fix everything," he admitted one night over Chinese takeout. Like love was this magic thing that could overcome any obstacle. "Love is powerful," I said, "but it's not magic. It can't fix problems if the other person isn't willing to work on them, too." "Did you ever love Dad like that? Like you'd do anything for him?" I thought about Cameron's father, about the man I'd married at 23, full of hope and dreams. I did, and I did do anything for him. I supported him when he wanted to change careers. I took on extra shifts when money was tight. I convinced myself that his moods, his distance, his eventual affair, that it was all temporary, that love would fix it. But it didn't. No, because I was the only one loving. He'd already checked out. I looked at my son. "But you know what? I don't regret it. Because loving him gave me you, and you were worth every bit of pain." He smiled sadly. "You always know what to say. I'm your mother. It's my superpower." 3 weeks after the wedding disaster, I got a call from a lawyer I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Morrison, my name is David Chen. I'm representing the FBI in the case against Marcus Sullivan. I need you to testify." "Testify about what, bae?" "About your investigation into the Sullivan family, about the prenuptial agreement, about the evidence you gathered." He paused. Mrs. Morrison, your testimony could be crucial in proving Marcus Sullivan's pattern of financial manipulation. We need you. I looked at Cameron asleep on my couch at 2 in the afternoon. He'd had another rejection that morning, another law firm that didn't want the baggage he carried. What if I say no? Then Marcus Sullivan might go free, and he'll continue to destroy people's lives. I closed my eyes. When do you need me? The trial was set for 6 weeks later. Federal courthouse in downtown Manhattan. United States of America versus Marcus Sullivan. Rachel helped me prepare. We went over my testimony 100 times. What I'd found, how I'd found it, why I'd investigated in the first place. They're going to try to paint you as vindictive, she warned. Marcus's defense attorney is going to say you hated the Sullivans and manufactured evidence to break up the wedding. But I didn't. I know. But you need to stay calm when they accuse you. Don't get defensive. Just stick to the facts. The night before I was supposed to testify, Amelia called again. Mrs. Morrison, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I'm testifying too. Tomorrow. Against my father. Her voice shook. My lawyer says I could be charged as an accessory if I don't cooperate. But honestly, I want to. I want to tell the truth about what he did. What he made me do. That must be incredibly hard. It is. But you were right. About everything. And I need to own my part in it. She paused. I also wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you. For what I tried to do to Cameron. You deserved better. He deserved better. Amelia, I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to be the person I should have been all along. The next day I wore my best dress, not the blue one from the wedding, but a simple gray sheath that Rachel had helped me pick out. Professional, trustworthy. The courthouse was intimidating. All marble and flags and serious-faced people. Cameron came with me, holding my hand as we walked through security. You don't have to do this, he whispered. Yes, I do. For you. For everyone Marcus Sullivan hurt. The courtroom was packed. Investors who'd lost money. Reporters. Curious onlookers. And at the defense table, Marcus Sullivan in an expensive suit looking defiant. Victoria sat in the gallery, her face a mask of Botox and denial. I took the stand, swore to tell the truth, and faced the prosecutor. Mrs. Morrison, can you tell the court why you began investigating Marcus Sullivan? I took a breath. Because I was worried about my son. He was engaged to Mr. Sullivan's daughter, and I noticed inconsistencies, things that didn't add up. What kind of inconsistencies? The Sullivan family appeared wealthy, but there were signs they might be in financial trouble. And the prenuptial agreement, I described the prenup, the predatory clauses, the way it was designed to funnel Cameron's income to Marcus. The prosecutor walked me through everything. The investigation, the evidence James had found, the emails between Victoria and Amelia. Then came the defense attorney, a sharp-faced woman in a power suit who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Mrs. Morrison, isn't it true that you never liked Amelia Sullivan? I didn't know her well enough to like or dislike her. Come now. You investigated her family. You hired a private detective. You went through her personal emails. That's not the behavior of someone neutral. I was protecting my son. Or were you jealous that your son had found someone and didn't need you anymore? I felt anger flare. Rachel's warning echoed, stay calm. No, I said evenly. I was concerned, and my concerns turned out to be valid. Valid according to you, but you're not a financial expert, are you? Mrs. Morrison? You're a retired nurse. How would you even know if the prenup was unusual? I consulted with my sister, who's a family law attorney. Ah, yes, your sister, who coincidentally hates wealthy people and has made a career out of divorce cases. Hardly an objective source. The prosecutor objected. The judge sustained it. But the damage was done. The defense was painting me as biased, unreliable, vengeful. The questioning went on for 2 hours. By the end, I was exhausted. But then Amelia took the stand. She looked different. No designer clothes, no perfectly styled hair, just a simple dress and minimal makeup. She looked younger, more real. And she told the truth. All of it. How her father had pressured her to marry Cameron for his money. How Victoria had threatened to disown her if she didn't go through with it. How Marcus Reed had blackmailed them. how the prenup was designed to steal Cameron's income. I knew it was wrong, she said, tears streaming down her face. I knew it was wrong and I did it anyway. Because I was scared. Because I'd been taught my whole life that family loyalty was everything. That you did whatever it took to protect the family name. And what do you think now? The prosecutor asked. I think my father destroyed our family name all by himself. And I think Mrs. Morrison did what I should have done, told the truth. When Amelia stepped down, she looked at me. Our eyes met. And I nodded. Just once. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement, understanding. We were both mothers and daughters, both trapped by family expectations, both trying to do what we thought was right. The difference was, she'd learned to choose differently. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On day 3, Cameron and I sat in the courthouse cafeteria drinking terrible coffee and not talking about the 100 different ways this could go wrong. What if they find him not guilty? Cameron finally said. Then we tried. That's all we can do. He'll come after us. After you. Let him try. I'm not afraid anymore. And I meant it. Somewhere over the past few months, I'd stopped being afraid. Stopped being the quiet, accommodating woman who let people walk over her. I'd found my voice, and I wasn't giving it up. At 4:47 p.m., we got the call. The jury had reached a verdict. We rushed back to the courtroom. Cameron gripped my hand so tightly it hurt. The jury foreman stood. In the case of the United States versus Marcus Sullivan on the count of securities fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of money laundering, guilty, guilty, guilty. On all counts. Marcus Sullivan's face went white. Victoria screamed. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Sullivan, you are hereby remanded into custody pending sentencing. Bailiff? They led Marcus away in handcuffs. He looked at me as they passed. Not with hatred, with something like shock. As if he couldn't believe that a nobody nurse from Upper West Side had helped bring him down. I didn't look away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Cameron shielded me, trying to push through the crowd. But one reporter's question cut through the noise. Mrs. Morrison, how does it feel to have saved your son and helped convict a criminal? I stopped, looked at the cameras. It feels like justice, I said. For Cameron, for all the investors Marcus Sullivan defrauded, and for anyone who's ever been told they don't matter because they're not rich or powerful. That night, the video of my statement went viral. Not as viral as the wedding disaster, but viral enough. And this time the comments were different. She's a hero. This is what a real mother looks like. Taylor Morrison for president. I turned off my phone and looked at Cameron sitting on my couch, finally smiling. We did it, Mom. We did it, sweetheart. And for the first time in months, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. 3 months after the trial, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was Chicago. The handwriting was familiar. Dear Mrs. Morrison, I don't know if you'll read this or if you'll throw it away the moment you see my name. I wouldn't blame you if you did. But I wanted you to know what's happened since the trial. I moved to Chicago as I told Cameron I would. I'm working at a nonprofit now, nothing glamorous, just social media coordination for an organization that helps victims of financial fraud. The irony isn't lost on me. I've also been seeing a therapist, unpacking a lot of things about my family, about how I was raised, about the choices I made. It's hard work. Some days I don't want to face it, but I'm trying. My mother doesn't speak to me anymore. She blames me for testifying against my father for betraying the family. Maybe she's right. Maybe I did betray them, but I couldn't lie anymore, not after seeing what it cost. My father will be in prison for the next 15 years. I visit him sometimes, though I'm not sure why. He doesn't apologize. He still thinks he did nothing wrong, that he was just playing the game the way everyone in finance does. I'm enclosing a check. It's not much, $15,000. It's what the prenup would have taken from Cameron in the first month alone. I've been saving everything I can from my job. It'll take me years to pay back what my family tried to steal from him, but I'm going to try. I'm also writing to say thank you. You saved your son. And in doing so, you saved me too. From becoming my parents, from living a lie, from destroying the one person who genuinely loved me. I don't expect Cameron to forgive me. I don't expect you to either. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to become the person I should have been when I met him. The person who deserved his love. With gratitude and regret, Amelia, I sat at my kitchen table reading the letter 3 times. Then I picked up the phone and called Cameron. Hey, Mom, what's up? I got a letter from Amelia. She's in Chicago. She sent money trying to pay back what the prenup would have taken. Silence on the other end. Then how much? $15,000. She doesn't have to do that. I know, but she wants to. More silence. Is she okay? She sounds like she's trying to be. She's in therapy, working at a nonprofit, trying to make amends. Good. That's good. His voice was thick with emotion. I hope she finds peace. I really do. Do you want to reach out to her? No, not yet. Maybe not ever. He paused. But I don't hate her, Mom. I did for a while. But mostly I just feel sad. Sad for what we could have been if things had been different. That's very mature of you. I learned from the best. After we hung up, I looked at the check. $15,000. More money than I'd seen at once in years. I could use it. God knows I could use it. My savings were depleted from legal fees, even though the FBI had covered most of it. My apartment needed repairs. My car was dying. But it wasn't my money to take. I deposited it in an account I set up in Cameron's name. When he was ready, when he'd healed enough, I'd tell him about it. For now, it could sit there. A small act of redemption. A seed of hope that people could change. The cafe in Brooklyn was sunny and bright, filled with the kind of young professionals who thought $4 coffee was reasonable. I sat across from Cameron watching him type on his laptop. He was working on a motion for a case, his first big case at his new job. After Morrison and Klein let him go, Cameron had spent 2 months wallowing. Then he'd gotten angry. Then he'd gotten determined. He'd taken a position at Brooklyn Legal Aid doing exactly the kind of work he'd always wanted to do, helping people who couldn't afford expensive lawyers. The pay was a fraction of what he'd made at the corporate firm. He'd never been happier. Mom, you're staring. I'm allowed to stare. I'm your mother. He smiled. The real smile. The one that reached his eyes. What are you thinking about? About how proud I am of you. About how far you've come. We've come, he corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Linda. Coffee next week. I want to hear about the new volunteer program you're starting. The volunteer program. My new project. After the trial, after everything settled, I'd realized something. There were thousands of people like me, parents worried about their kids seeing red flags, not knowing what to do, people who needed help navigating family crises. So I'd started a support group. Protecting Family, we called it. We met twice a month at a community center. Parents, siblings, friends, anyone worried about a loved one being taken advantage of. We shared stories. We shared resources. We helped each other find investigators, lawyers, therapists. We reminded each other that protecting someone you love isn't the same as controlling them. It had started with 5 people. Now we had 50 regulars. Earth to Mom. I looked up. Cameron was watching me with amusement. Sorry, sweetheart. Just thinking about the meeting tonight. The support group. You're amazing, you know that. He closed his laptop. Speaking of which, I have something to tell you. My heart jumped. What? I've been seeing someone. Nothing serious yet, but I wanted you to know. Oh, what's her name? Sarah. She's a teacher at a public school in Queens. We met at a community center event. He pulled out his phone, showed me a picture. She was pretty. Not magazine cover beautiful like Amelia, but real. Warm smile, kind eyes, laugh lines. She's lovely. She is. And Mom, he looked at me seriously. I want you to meet her, but I want to do it right this time. Slowly. No pressure. Just getting to know each other as people. I'd like that. And if you notice any red flags, I'll tell you immediately, but I'll trust you to make your own decision. He reached across the table, took my hand. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. We sat like that for a moment, mother and son survivors of a storm that had almost destroyed us. My phone buzzed again. This time an email. From Amelia. I hesitated, then opened it. Mrs. Morrison, I wanted you to know I got accepted into a master's program for financial counseling. I'm going to help people recover from financial manipulation and fraud. People like the ones my father hurt. I also wanted to tell you that I started dating someone. His name is Marcus. Yes, I know, ironic, but he's nothing like my father or Marcus Reed. He's an elementary school teacher. He makes $45,000 a year and lives in a studio apartment. And for the first time in my life, I don't care about any of that. I just care that he's kind, that he's honest, that he makes me want to be better. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like. The kind that protects without controlling. The kind that tells hard truths because they matter more than comfort. I hope Cameron is well. I hope you're both healing. With continued gratitude, Amelia, I showed the email to Cameron. He read it, and I saw his expression soften. She's really trying, he said quietly. She is. Do you think people can really change, fundamentally change? I thought about the question, about Cameron's father who never changed, about Amelia who was trying to, about myself who'd learned to be stronger than I knew I could be. I think some people can, I said, if they want it badly enough, if they're willing to do the hard work. And the ones who can't, we protect ourselves from them, and we protect the people we love. Cameron nodded slowly. Then he stood, gathered his laptop. Come on, let's go home. Your place or mine? He'd finally gotten a new apartment 2 months ago. Small, affordable, in a neighborhood that wasn't trendy yet. But it was his. Yours. I want to see what you're making for dinner. I'm not making anything fancy. Mom, your spaghetti is my favorite meal. Has been since I was 5 years old. We walked out of the cafe into the Brooklyn sunshine. Cameron put his arm around my shoulders. Hey, Mom. Yes. Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me. For fighting for me when I was too blind to see I needed fighting for. I hugged him tight. This boy I'd raised. This man he'd become. Always, I whispered. I'll always fight for you. As we walked toward the subway, I thought about that terrible night before the wedding, when Amelia had told me I wouldn't be part of the family anymore. She'd been wrong, because family isn't about wedding ceremonies or legal documents or prenuptial agreements. Family is about the people who show up, who tell you the truth, who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. And by that definition, Cameron and I would always be family. Nothing, not wealth, not manipulation, not fear, could ever change that.